Well, I'll be the best example, right? For now is I've been ordered deported by the ICE, by the Immigration and Customs Enforcement. And the reason I've been ordered deported is when I committed a crime at the age of 16, I was not a citizen of the United States. So therefore, after the 1996 Oklahoma Timothy McVeigh bombing, the government, the USA government, introduced an anti-immigration reform law that states that anyone who committed a felony or crime of moral turpitude, meaning domestic violence or drugs, that they are mandatorily detained and deported, right? And this law is retroactive, meaning that it doesn't matter if the crime happens 40 years ago or 50 years ago, it still applies to you. You are still able to get deported, right? So that's just one of the big impact of what happened right there. And the thing is, when I was convicted, when I was convicted for my crime, it wasn't until 10 years later that law came in, right? So, but then I still became part of, as a direct result of the anti-immigration reform law that I was a victim in that. So then I was ordered deported. So I fought in the immigration system for like 2 years. I still lost my case. So today I'm waiting for a travel document from the Chinese government, and then they'll deport me back to China, regardless of the community spoken on my behalf, saying that they want me out in the community, or the politicians, the state and federal legislators, they all wanted me to stay out there. Even my former prosecutor and judge, they want me to stay out there. They testified on my behalf. They still said no. We feel that this guy is a threat to our society if he's, allowed to stay here, and so therefore, we have to deport him. So, but then that's one thing, right? But it affects so many people. It affects all the people, the refugees that came to this country, the Vietnamese, even though they cannot be deported right now because they don't have a treaty with the Vietnamese government. We have seen that with what happened to the Cambodians, right? They never had a treaty before. All of a sudden, because the United States pushed the economic policy, they won the economic interest, and they wanted to push that. So now they had a treaty, and then they start deporting people back to their home country, and then and those people go in the home country. They've been living in the United States most of their lives. They don't have no loved ones there. They can't adjust, and sometimes they get incarcerated over there. Then now all of a sudden they stop that policy because they see so many people going back into the home country and start committing crimes over there because that's the means of their survival, because they don't understand the language, right? So you have a lot of that going on with the Southeast Asian community right now. And the thing is, people, they don't understand how much it affects them, right? And then obviously, you have the affecting the Latino population. That's always a threat. So you have many people who have become a contributing member of the society. Even after they committed a crime, they were rehabilitated, they released. They have their own family. It didn't matter. So the policy actually breaks up homes. Really tears the family apart. Which is a very unjust policy dealing with the immigration process. And the language barrier is another thing, when you deal with the immigration process, because you don't get representation. You don't get the point where you say, well, if you can't afford an attorney, we'll provide one for you. No, you're gonna provide your own attorney. You're gonna fight your own case. It's from within custody. You don't allow to get bail out when you're fighting the immigration process. And unfortunately, you do have a lot of attorneys who will, swindle the victims, the people that were fighting case, swindle their money, So there are a lot of challenges dealing with the API community, dealing with the immigration policy. And that's why you have so many different groups that coming out right now to speak up about that, speak against this, inhumane policy. So as Asian and Pacific Islanders, we are all always considered as the minority, right? Minority, but we are the minority within the minorities, right? When I say that, it's because they consider African American and the Latinos as the minorities, and we are lumped into that too. But when you come into the prison system, we are the minority of the minority, because the fact that we, in the population-wise, when you compare to the numbers, we are relatively small, compared to the, the people that were locked up. So once you enter the system, you're being categorized, being racially segregated. Right? The segregation would come in the African American would consider as blacks, the Latino would be the Hispanics, and then you have the whites as whites, and then all the Asians, Pacific Islanders and Southeast Asians, everybody lumped as, categorized as others. Right? So once you categorize others, so the system racially discriminates against us and racially segregates us, but then ourselves within the population, in the prison population, we segregate ourselves also, because all the Asians going to hang out with all the Asians, all the blacks with the blacks, the whites with the whites, and the Hispanics, right? But then within, unfortunately, for the other, minority groups, they have different, gangs, they're rival gangs. So if you have the Bloods and Crips, so even though they're all blacks, but then they have all these different gangs, they all segregate themselves within those gangs too. Right? Same thing with the Hispanics, with the Norteños, the Sureños, and the Bullet Brothers, and then the whites, with the Latino riders, the white supremacists, and all the different type of gangs that they have. When the Asian comes in, they all some of the youngsters, they also are involved in different type of gangs also. But today, now in the days, you have the Asian who are, you have Asian Crips, Asian Norteños, Asian Sureños, they all getting involved in those type of gang activities now. So back in the days when we first start doing our time, if you come into the penitentiary, you don't claim any set, basically. Whatever games that you play on the streets, you drop that at the door. So what you do is you're Asian and Pacific Island, and that's it. And then we stick together because we are small in number, right? So when we are small in number, but then we are strength in our solidarity. So that's the strength that we have a reputation that, if you mess with one Asian, then you have to mess with all the Asians because we in solidarity with each other, support each other, right? That's why we don't start anything, until a problem comes to us, then we have to defend ourselves. Whereas later on, when the population continued to be risen during the years, then the people, the Asian, the API community start kind of breaking out in the sense that you have some people who are starting to break out to their own little groups. For example, like we have before, we all look out for each other, but then now when you have a specific group of people, like maybe the Cambodians or maybe the Vietnamese, instead of being one, what we call it a car inside, they break out to their own groups. So then when you break it up, then people see that breakup. They're gonna see, oh, okay, so now they're with them, so they're not together. So when when other people see the weaknesses, then they're able to prey on you, right? So that's one of the things that one of the challenges that we face with the overpopulation and with people's mentality is different from the old schools and the Pepsi generation, where the people come in, they don't have no respect for themselves and have no respect for any type of rules, right? So they just, getting ready to get into a wreck, So the thing is, one of the ways that we trying to create community inside, I know we jumping off, one of the things we trying to create community inside is the fact that we have what we call a spread. We always have a spread. Well, no matter which penitentiary you go to, we always have a spread. Either once a month or once every 3 months, where all the API come together on the same yard. That we'll chip in like soups. You know how when you come in to have different fundraisers or different things like that. If you don't have funding, don't worry. It's all good. Right. So the same thing with the penitentiary. You come to a spread, you just bring your bowl. Right. We just want your presence. If you got no money, don't trip. We cover all the food. So everybody chip in. So we enjoy the process of cooking, having activities, and then we just enjoy a meal together. Just let the people know that, hey, we are together regardless of what we identify and how we identify. So that's how we deal with it.
Eddy spoke about APS being divided today. Not like 20 years ago we're all solid. But even if we're divided, when something happened that involved other, let's say API have problem with different race, we all come together, as a whole, and that's going to be always part of their lives in there, because the fact that when you go inside, you're labeled as an other.